Volodymyr Zelensky began his historic visit to the United States with a meeting with President Joe Biden. The Ukrainian leader asserted that the war must end with the liberation of the entire country. For me, as president, just peace is not a compromise as to the sovereignty, freedom, and territorial integrity of my country. We expect reparations for all damages inflicted by Russian aggression. President Joe Biden announced a transfer of nearly $2 billion in military support to Kyiv. Among other things, Ukraine will receive a battery of Patriot missiles.
I don't see any reason to believe there will be any lessening of support. And as we reach out to our NATO allies, our Secretary of Defense and our Secretary of State, we get continued support, not only there, but also from around the world, from Japan and many other countries as well. So I feel very good about the solidarity of support for Ukraine.
In Congress, Volodymyr Zelensky illustrated the scale of Russian terror.
We'll celebrate Christmas. Celebrate Christmas, and even if there is no electricity, the light of our faith in ourselves will not be put out. If Russian missiles attack us, we'll do our best to protect ourselves. If they attack us with Iranian drones and our people will have to go to bomb shelters on Christmas Eve, Ukrainians will still sit down at the holiday table and cheer up each other. And we don't have to know everyone's wish, as we know that all of us, millions of Ukrainians, wish the same: victory.
The United States has stood firmly on the side of the defending Ukraine since the beginning of the war. So far, Washington has given the most support to Kyiv of any ally. There is talk of another package of money, humanitarian aid, but above all, aid in military equipment. The idea is to lobby for the transfer of more advanced weapons to Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky's speech to the U.S. Congress is being compared to Winston Churchill's 1941 speech, when the British Prime Minister appealed to the U.S. to join the war. For Ukrainians, this is a war for everything. This is a war for Central Europe, too. This is a war for sovereignty, to be or not to be. The head of the Gazeta Polska Club in New York, Maciej Rusiński, reassures that there is a consensus in America to support Ukraine. These movements that have sort of questioned American support for Ukraine are sort of smaller, less significant individuals in the Republican Party. But they are no less, and this is causing some uncertainty, or at least in such a general public debate, some hesitation or inquiries as to what this further support will look like. The United States continues to play the role of global hegemon. A defeat of Ukraine could significantly weaken the U.S. position in the world. But there is still a lot of that idealism in politics that we saw 100 years ago when President Wilson ordered that Poland with access to the sea would be created, and when he helped end World War I, the Americans helped end World War II, and they see that, in fact, the Russian threat is strategic. The Ukrainians understand very well that Western support is necessary for them to win the war. I think it's very important because our country is suffering from constant missile attacks and airstrikes using Iranian Shahed drones. From what I've read, Patriot missiles can detect missiles as soon as they are launched, which means that with these missiles we will be able to shoot them down at the border. I very much hope that the speech impressed not only Ukrainians. It is not easy to impress us because we have seen a lot. I hope the speech made an even bigger impression on the U.S. Congress. Today, on his way back from the U.S., Volodymyr Zelensky met with the Polish President Andrzej Duda. Meanwhile, the Russians are shelling Ukrainian cities at all times. Missiles have fallen on the Mykolaiv and Dnipropetrovsk regions, among others. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces reported that the Russians have already lost more than 100,000 troops since the start of the war.